Good to have you with us on a busy Monday morning. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Hope you had a great weekend. We're glad you're here. We begin this morning with a new NBC News poll. It shows Vice President Kamala Harris leading former President Donald Trump. With just over 6 weeks until Election Day, the poll finds Harris with a 5-point lead among registered voters. It's important to note that's within the margin of error, but does mark a shift since July's poll, which had Trump ahead by 2 points before President Biden's exit.
The Harris campaign says the vice president raised $27 million during a New York City fundraiser Sunday. And with early voting now underway in some places, the Harris-Walz campaign is setting its sights on winning over voters in key battleground states. That includes North Carolina, a state that Mr. Trump won by a slight edge in 2020. The former president will make his case to voters later today during a rally in the critical swing state of Pennsylvania. We have full team coverage of the latest on the race for the White House. In just a few moments, we're going to dive into that new NBC News poll with senior political editor Mark Murray. But we begin with NBC News 2024 campaign embed Emma Barnett. She is on the road with the Trump campaign in Pittsburgh, and NBC News White House correspondent Ali Rafa, who is covering the Harris campaign. Ali, let's start with you. So this morning, in a bid to try and coax Mr. Trump back onto the debate stage, Democrats are trying to launch a new messaging campaign. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, guys, good morning. Well, you'll remember that messaging campaign that started a few months ago when Vice President Harris's running mate, Governor Tim Walz, started calling the former president, quote, weird. This is the same intent behind that, but this one is led by the Democratic National Committee, and their effort is to try and dub the former president a, quote, chicken for saying he won't debate Vice President Harris again. With the DNC, they say, ready to launch billboards, ads, even have a staffer dressed up as a chicken who will appear outside of Trump's upcoming campaign events, the first of which, as you mentioned, Joe, is that campaign rally in battleground Pennsylvania today. And what sparked all of this was over the weekend when Vice President Harris officially committed to a CNN debate on October 23rd, the Harris campaign saying Trump, quote, should have no problem agreeing to this debate. It is the same format and setup as the CNN debate he attended and said he won back in June. But Trump over the weekend repeated his decision to not do any more debates, saying it's simply just too late now that early voting has begun in several states. The DNC, again, pushing back on that, saying that in 2020, President Biden and former President Trump had already been debating when early voting had begun. So the back and forth on this just expected to grow over this coming week.
Emma, let's bring you in here. I know you talked to supporters of the former president at a rally in North Carolina over the weekend. Do they want to see another debate before the election?
Savannah, it really was mixed among Trump supporters at the rally this weekend, and you could divide them up into 3 different groups. Some people said they absolutely want to see another debate. Other people said they don't want to see another debate. They said that the last debate was not fair. One voter described it to me as a 3 versus 1 debate. And some people said it's totally his decision. I also spoke to a variety of voters in Wilmington, North Carolina, the day after the debate. And Democrats were very amped up and do want to see another debate. But take a listen to what 2 Trump supporters told me.
Absolutely. He should do another debate, but it shouldn't be on their terms anymore. They've had the first 2 debates on their terms. How about let's find some place in the middle?
So you'd want to see another debate, but on a more conservative-leaning network?
Yes. Not necessarily conservative-leaning, just somebody in the middle. I mean, all we ever want is the truth.
So you heard that there are some pretty nuanced answers from voters in North Carolina. Savannah?
Emma, let's stay in North Carolina. 4 top staff members of embattled GOP gubernatorial candidate Mark Robinson have now stepped down from the campaign. That follows that bombshell CNN report last week alleging that he made anti-Semitic and racist comments years ago on a pornographic website. What is the former president saying about this scandal? And just what are you hearing from voters in North Carolina about this?
What's really notable, Joe, is the former president isn't saying much. He had a rally this weekend in Wilmington, North Carolina, and he didn't bring it up at all. What was also notable is that Mark Robinson was not at the rally. Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, said that the allegations aren't necessarily reality. And when I was talking to a bunch of voters on the ground, they had pretty mixed responses. Some voters are really hoping that Robinson steps out of the race. They feel that they can't vote for him anymore. And other voters say, while they're not happy with the news, they believe that he should stay in the race and they're going to cast their ballot for him. Joe?
Ali, the Harris campaign picked up a major endorsement over the weekend. More than 700 former military and national security officials endorsed the vice president. This was in an open letter. What did they have to say?
Yeah, Savannah, this was a letter organized by the group National Security Leaders for America, and it included Democrats as well as Republicans, some of them former secretaries of state, so former secretaries of defense, former ambassadors, even some Trump-era officials. And they say in this letter, in part, quote, "The contrast with Mr. Trump is clear. Where Vice President Harris is prepared and strategic, he is impulsive and ill-informed." They also criticize the former president for praising what they call adversarial dictators. They talk about China's Xi Jinping, North Korea's Kim Jong-un, Russia's Vladimir Putin. They also bring up the 2020 election, saying Trump, quote, "has undermined faith in our elections by repeating lies without evidence of millions of fraudulent votes." And they say that that alone proves that Trump is unfit to be commander-in-chief. The Trump campaign, for their part, pushing back on this, saying that those who endorse Harris, quote, "are the same people who got our country into endless foreign wars and profited off of them while the American people suffered." Savannah.
Emma, one last question here. The former president talked about his future, specifically if he does not win in 2024. Real quick, what is he saying?
Real quick, he said that if he does not win, which he hopes to win, he said that he will not be running again in 4 years on Cheryl Atkinson's show Full Measure. Joe?
All right, Emma and Allie kicking us off this hour. Thank you both.
Now let's dive into that new NBC News poll that's showing a tight race with senior political editor Mark Murray. Mark, good morning. Good to have you with us. So there's a lot of headlines to go through with this poll. Let's start with the basics. Walk us through these big numbers.
Yeah, the head-to-head number shows that Harris has a 5-point lead nationally over Donald Trump, 49 to 44%. That's within the margin of error. Another 7% are undecided, unsure, or backing other candidates. But Savannah, this is a remarkable shift from our previous polling. Just back in July, our poll ended up having Trump ahead by 2 percentage points over Joe Biden. And pretty much the course of this race, you end up having Trump either tied or ahead going back to 2023. What is really interesting in our numbers, though, is that how that Trump percentage kind of is in the same ballpark, 44, 45, 46%, where the Democratic share either with Biden or Harris is at a high of 49%, but then is a low of 42. So that Democratic number has gone up and down while the Trump ballot number has pretty much stayed the same.
So, Mark, there is a lot for Democrats to be happy about here, especially the surge in popularity for Vice President Harris. Talk about that, what's behind it, and why do we think voters might be seeing her differently?
Yeah, Joe, this might be the most remarkable finding in our entire poll. And our poll ends up having Harris having a net positive rating overall. 48% end up having a favorable view of her versus 45% unfavorable. That's better than all the other politicians in 2024 candidates that our poll ended up measuring. And what is notable is back in July, Harris was at 32% positive score. That's now gone up 16 percentage points to 48%. And in the 35-year history of our NBC News poll, you have to go back to George W. Bush after the 9/11 terrorist attack for a spike that high. And the improvement for Harris has been across the board, particularly young voters, Latinos, and Black voters view her in a more positive light than they did back in July.
Wow, what a swing there. Mark, what are Republicans drawing hope from in this poll?
It's on the issues, Savannah. Worth noting that Donald Trump has the advantage when it comes to the border, the economy, inflation, but it is worth noting that those advantages are smaller than what he enjoyed over Joe Biden when Biden was still at the top of the Democratic ticket. Harris, meanwhile, has the advantage when it comes to the issue of abortion, and they're pretty much tied when it comes to commander-in-chief. And also we end up having a flip where, Donald Trump had about a 20-point advantage on who has the physical and mental fitness to be president. He had that advantage over Joe Biden. Now that is Kamala Harris with the advantage on that issue with Joe Biden out of the race.
So, Mark, we have about 6 weeks left here. We know in 2 months how much a race can change, so I guess anything is possible. But does it feel like we're sort of getting into the zone of what this race is going to look like as we approach Election Day? Is there any position, any way for either candidate to move up, I guess, at this point?
Joe, there's a lot of time left, but I think that everything that we're seeing in our poll and others, including some new New York Times, CNN battleground polls that show Donald Trump slightly ahead, but within the margin of error in some Sun Belt states, this is all shaping up to be a very, very close race. And while there is tremendous improvement on the Democratic side, we are still in the cone of uncertainty, and we're in the cone of a very close contest with 6 more weeks to go.
Mark Murray, as always, we appreciate you. Thank you.
New this morning, the Israeli military is conducting extensive airstrikes on Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon. Cross-border attacks between the two sides continue to escalate. The IDF released a statement ahead of more strikes, warning Lebanese civilians to evacuate from places where Hezbollah is believed to be storing weapons.
On Sunday, Hezbollah rockets and drones struck Israeli targets in the northern city of Haifa after both sides exchanged heavy fire across Lebanon's border. Hezbollah said it launched these attacks Sunday as an initial response for the pager and walkie-talkie blast there early last week.
NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us now from Tel Aviv with the latest. Raf, good morning. So let's start with this new wave of attacks on Lebanon this morning. What can you tell us?
Joe, Savannah, good morning. This is the most extensive set of Israeli strikes in Lebanon we have seen since the start of this war. It is by far larger than the kind of tit-for-tat skirmishing we've seen since October 8th, and it seems to be the start of a much broader campaign. The Israeli military says it has struck more than 300 targets in Lebanon so far just today. Those are strikes not limited only to the south near the Israeli border, but they're happening in other parts of the country also. And for the first time on a large scale, we are seeing the Israeli military issuing warnings to Lebanese civilians to get out of villages, get out of areas where Hezbollah is storing weapons. We've seen these kind of warnings in Gaza before. We're now seeing it on a much larger scale in Lebanon. And it's worth saying that while Gaza is small and geographically isolated, there is at least somewhere for these Lebanese civilians to run to. Now, Lebanon's health ministry is saying 50 people have been killed across the country so far today. It's not clear at this point what the breakdown is of civilians to Hezbollah militants, but the health ministry is saying there are both women and children killed in these Israeli strikes so far. What is also really striking is I asked an Israeli military official earlier, what could Hezbollah do to stop this Israeli escalation, to stop these Israeli attacks? If Hezbollah stopped firing into northern Israel, would that be enough? And this official indicated that at this point it would not be enough. They said there are 3 broad goals of this bombing campaign. They are trying to create conditions where those tens of thousands of displaced Israeli civilians can return to their homes in the north. They are trying to push Hezbollah forces back away from the Israeli border, and they are trying to destroy what they say is now decades worth of Hezbollah infrastructure buildup well within missile and rocket range of Israel. So intense Israeli bombings going on right now, Hezbollah firing back with rockets and missiles, and fears rising that we may be hurtling here towards all-out war. Guys.
Raf, aside from the attack that we saw on those communication devices last week, that coordinated attack with pagers and walkie-talkies, other than that, Israel's military campaign against Hezbollah has been largely through these aerial attacks. But is a ground invasion of southern Lebanon by Israel at all a possibility as tensions between the two sides escalate?
It is a possibility, Savannah. The Israeli military is stressing at this point this campaign is being conducted from the air, but they're not ruling out that at some point we could see Israeli forces rolling across the border into southern Lebanon. We've seen that before in 1982 when Israeli troops occupied southern Lebanon for 20 years. We saw it also in 2006 when Israeli troops launched a more limited operation. And I got to say, guys, that would not be easy fighting for Israeli forces. Hezbollah is extremely well armed. It's backed by Iran. It is far more powerful than Hamas. Hezbollah would be fighting on home turf in mountainous terrain where it has an extensive network of tunnels. So it may come to a point where Israel feels it has no choice but to send ground forces into southern Lebanon, but that is not a decision that the Israeli government would take lightly. Guys.
All right, Raph, thank you so much.
Well, just a week after the apparent assassination attempt on former President Trump, the Secret Service could be facing its biggest challenge. This week, global heads of state are gathering here in New York for the United Nations General Assembly. NBC News law enforcement and intelligence correspondent Tom Winter got an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at how the agency is preparing for the high-security event.
This is where everything begins.
Surrounded by a fleet of armored SUVs inside a massive warehouse in a secretive location, Pat Freeney, the head of the Secret Service in New York, is preparing for the agency's biggest challenge.
Listen, the pressure is real.
In the fallout after the assassination attempt against former President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, and another apparent attempt against him in Florida just 1 week ago, they must now secure the annual meeting of world leaders at the United Nations. NBC News getting an exclusive look at how they're preparing.
We're tracking 146 heads of state, head of government, and then 70 spouses.
With new challenges to protect them all.
We've all witnessed the uptick in political violence worldwide, and unfortunately domestically.
Part of the protection means reacting real time from this command post.
It puts everyone in the same room.
Agents shoulder to shoulder with local partners. The Secret Service has admitted the use of multiple command posts cost them critical seconds at the Butler rally. That won't be the case here.
They're able to digest and receive real-time information, break it down, and push it out to all the operational units in the field of what's going on.
Like the NYPD.
There's going to be cops that you will see, and there will be cops that you will not see.
Deputy Commissioner for Operations Kaz Daughtry oversees the drone program.
Anytime there's a drone up in the city, we can locate it.
Their eyes in the sky launch from the top of an SUV and can send a video live stream anywhere.
Yep. Of course, it's live streaming right into the truck.
Yes, correct.
And live streaming on your phone if you want.
If I wanted to go on my smartphone and take it out and show you, it'll be live streaming on there as well.
They can also call in the choppers. Flying above the UN, they're on the lookout for threats, including those they can't see.
You're trying to detect chemicals in the air, radiation in the air. These instruments that we have are so succinct and detect any type of radiological airwaves.
Back at the warehouse, Freeney says he knows the stakes are high.
Can people feel confident that the U.S. Secret Service is going to keep UNGA week and the people you're protecting safe?
Yeah, they should have the utmost confidence. And Tom, the planning never stops.
Tom Winter, NBC News, New York.
The city of Birmingham, Alabama is mourning after a late-night mass shooting over the weekend. 4 people were killed on Saturday. 17 more were injured. Police believe it was a targeted attack, but no suspects have been arrested yet. NBC News correspondent Priya Sridhar has the latest on the investigation.
An urgent manhunt underway in Birmingham, Alabama, after authorities say shots were fired outside of a hookah and cigar lounge in a crowded entertainment district just after 11 p.m. Saturday night. Officials say multiple suspects got out of a vehicle and opened fire, killing 4 and injuring 17 others.
You got to go that way. You got to go that way.
Authorities believe the attack was targeted and say a fully automatic weapon was used before the suspects fled the scene by vehicle.
We believe the individual that was targeted is among the deceased. We believe that there was a hit, if you will, on that particular person, as far as, someone was willing to pay money to have that person killed.
Officials relying on the community and using surveillance video in their search.
We know that there are people in our community who do have information, who know who's responsible, who know what led up to this.
Derek Gunn was near the scene.
At first, we thought, what was that? A backfire or something? And then we heard 2 or 3 more, and then we heard the bap, 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 and literally everybody on the patio, we hit the deck. We hit the ground.
And as this community grapples with the tragedy, the search for the suspects goes on.
Our desire, our priority is to take killers and shooters off the streets. We owe it to the victims. We owe it to the victims' families. We owe it to the victims who are no longer with us.
Our thanks to Priya Sridhar for that report.
This morning, the suspect in the apparent assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump in Florida is due back in federal court for a bond hearing.
So far, 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Ruth is facing 2 federal charges. He remains in custody 1 week after his first court appearance last week. Ruth is accused of waiting in the bushes at Mr. Trump's golf course with an assault-style rifle while the former president was playing golf just a few hundred yards away. His gun was spotted by a Secret Service agent who then fired several shots at him. Ruth fled but was later arrested without incident. That became what appeared to be the second attempt on Mr. Trump's life in just over a 2-month span.
NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch is covering this for us in West Palm Beach, Florida. Jesse, good morning. So Ruth's first court appearance that Joe just referenced, it only lasted 8 minutes. We heard very little from the suspect himself. Walk us through what we can expect from today's hearing.
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. This is about how long he could potentially be spending behind bars before trial. So he's been in custody. Ruth has been in custody. He's been held in Miami since that last court appearance. But that was just temporary, and that was to give both sides time to prepare arguments for today's hearing. This is the pretrial detention hearing, and we know already from prosecutors they're going to be making the argument that Ruth should be behind bars until he faces a trial. They have argued that they believe he is a flight risk, a danger to the community. They also believe that he is potentially capable of obstructing justice or obstructing a witness in this case. And that is the argument that prosecutors already began to lay out in the last court appearance. So this hearing is about if he will be able to be released on bond or if he will remain behind bars until he reaches trial. And that is what we're going to be watching for, the arguments on both sides surrounding that. And that hearing is slated for later this morning, guys.
So, Jesse, as we mentioned, so far only 2 charges. He's been charged with possession of a firearm by a felon and possessing a firearm with an obliterated serial number. Nothing related to what allegedly took place outside the golf course. Could we learn today about any new potential charges, or could prosecutors at least reveal more information that investigators have discovered since this happened over a week ago?
Well, and that's the question, Joe. And as you just mentioned there, those charges make no mention of what the federal authorities are investigating, which is how they phrased it, an apparent second assassination attempt on the former president. And the criminal complaint that we've already received in connection with those 2 charges does not get into details about what he may have been attempting to do or thinking about doing in terms of former President Trump being at that golf course. So we're looking for any more details, anything more directly connecting him with the investigation into the apparent second assassination attempt. And again, federal authorities are going to be making the case to the judge that Ryan Ruth should not be released, should remain in custody until trial. And to make that argument, you need to lay out why you believe he is a danger to the community. So we'll be looking for any more details they might share about that. But at this point, we're just waiting to see what will come out in court today.
Jesse, the arraignment for Ruth is set for September 30th. Tell us, what have we heard from his lawyers so far?
Yeah, not much. We've been able to see what they've said in court so far. We haven't received any public statement from them. And, of course, we will continue to be trying to pursue any comment from Ryan Ruth himself as well, as this case gets a lot of attention all over the place, guys.
All right. Jesse Kirsch, thank you very much.
As our week begins, we are keeping an eye on a storm that is brewing in the tropics. Let's get a check now on your morning news now weather.
That's right. Meteorologist Violet Yaz joins us this morning. Hey there. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, it's been a quiet couple of weeks in the Atlantic Basin, but unfortunately things are starting to ramp up a little bit now. We've got 2 areas that we're watching. We've got this tropical disturbance way out in the Atlantic, just off the coast of Africa, with a 70% chance of development through the next 7 days. But we're going to have to put this one on the back burner for a little bit because we've got something we're watching a little bit closer to home. You can see that disturbance there just east of Central America with a 90% chance of intensification here through the course of the next 7 days. It is very likely that we get a depression or a tropical storm at least between today and tomorrow, a 90% chance. And this is going to push to the north. You can see sort of swing between Cuba and southeastern Mexico, eventually advancing into the Gulf of Mexico. And that's where conditions are going to be favorable. Now, here's one of our forecast models looking ahead to Wednesday afternoon, about 2 p.m. bringing this center of circulation, again, just north of this southeastern Mexico, just west of Cuba. What happens after this is a little bit more of a wild card. Until we really get that center of circulation, it's really difficult to know exactly which direction this is going to move in, although we're getting more forecast models here, potentially tracking this into the Big Bend of Florida, into the Florida Panhandle as we head into Thursday, especially. So you can see a little bit more agreement with the tracks here versus, for example, more westward landfall toward Louisiana or Mississippi, or an eastward landfall. But again, until we get that center of circulation, it's really difficult to pinpoint that exact track. But folks there along the Gulf of Mexico, through the Gulf states, are really going to have to watch this through the next couple of days. Overall here locally, we're looking at pretty quiet conditions here. We do have a localized threat of some strong storms, potentially localized flooding here from Little Rock up through parts of the Ohio Valley. That's going to be as we head into today. Our rainfall forecast through Tuesday, not too bad. You can see maybe half an inch lighter amounts here from parts of Texas, all the way up in through Rochester, New York, with some heavier amounts across parts of Pennsylvania, extending down into parts of Missouri. But if we extend this into the next 5 days through Friday, you can see those heavier amounts from some potential tropical development across the southeast especially. So that's going to be the area that we're watching, Alabama, into Georgia, into western Florida. So taking a look at the week ahead, again, a little bit on the soggy side there across the Ohio Valley today. Pretty quiet out west. And then advancing this into Wednesday, you can see that heavier rain starting to develop in the southeast. But really, it's later this week in that Wednesday night through Thursday and through Friday timeframe that we're going to be watching for those potential tropical impacts. So still keeping an eye on a couple of things, but I do think folks living in these areas are going to have to watch this pretty closely here, especially between today and tomorrow, as we've seen sometimes things develop pretty quickly, especially in the Gulf of Mexico.
All right. Thank you so much, Violetta.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.